Welcome back to Objectively Grading, the show where the truth is, the game was rigged from the start. First and foremost, before anything else, thank everybody so much for subscribing. I know like 300 isn't a huge number in the grand scheme of YouTube, but I am beyond blown away that one video basically generated all that. The Danny Phantom one, not so much. But, you know, the other Bleach one, which is why I'm doing Bleach today, again. Because I will milk something dry if I can. Plus, I like Bleach, so it makes it easy to talk about. Specifically, though, we're going to be talking about the Espada in Bleach. Within the context of Bleach, the Espada are set up as this huge existential threat that the captains have to deal with on top of Aizen. This is essentially Aizen creating his own 13 court guard squad, with him, Gin, and Tozen being the other 3 members. So first, we'll go over the criteria. Design. Design is what it says. How do they look? What did they look like? If I saw them in a crowd, would I go, that's an important character, that's definitely a guy I should be on the lookout for, or would they just be a Yu-Gi-Oh! Background character? This includes when they're in their resurrection, or resurrection? I think there's a hard C there. I'm going to pronounce it that way. Also, be prepared for me to mispronounce things. Alright, I'm doing my best. I'm a hick. Second up, we have abilities, but this specifically does not mean their power level. I want that to be clear right away, because if I was doing it by power level, I could just give them things based on their placement within their own organization. Instead, we're going to be kind of more or less talking about their abilities in terms of a creative capacity, or a unique capacity, or if they were all on a level playing field kind of capacity. Mostly because that's more interesting, and it gives people like Espada number 9, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce right now because I don't have it in front of me. It gives characters like him a chance to actually shine. Or them. Gives a can't. And lastly, we have character. What are they like? If I was hanging out with the guys, what would I be comfortable or uncomfortable? And if I'm uncomfortable, is it intentional or is it just because they're bad? That's what we're trying to find out. Before we continue, there will be 2 assumptions as well. First, again, not counting power level. The only reason I specify that a second time is I want to make it clear this is not who would win in a fight. This is who would be cooler to fight. I'm also going to be doing former Espada or temporary Espada. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I love you. Let's talk about Coyote Stark, why don't we? Coyote Stark, the definition of a lonely man wandering the desert looking for a friend, and instead only finding the corpses of those who were close. And that's it. That's kind of his story, at least to begin with. Stark is unique as a character of the Espada, as a member of the Espada, in that he actually wasn't granted his power by Aizen at all. Aizen found Stark and Lillinette. He had nothing to do with their actual final. Aizen had nothing to do with their creation, at least initially. He did allow them a place to stay and formed who they became, but Stark doesn't have a story arc at all. A lot of the Espada don't, to be perfectly frank. They are tools created by Aizen, and therefore we're kind of given the barest bones of character for them. We may be given backstory, we may be given personality traits, and we're typically not given growth or significant moments. Stark doesn't change as a character. He does not evolve, he does not grow, he does not alter. He is Stark from beginning to end, and it's stark how much that stands out. I do still give it significant credit for being its own self-contained story. Like, this is the end game of someone's OC. And I really do feel as if, by the end of it, Stark has already accomplished his goal. His endgame was finding a family, and this is just bonus content. Shunsui was the, final secret last boss in Kingdom Hearts. Design-wise, he's just so bland, especially when standing with the rest of the Espada. And that's fine, because it makes him stand out a little bit more, if anything else, when lined up with the other Espada. However, in a vacuum, he's forgettable. He's just a guy with a cool bone necklace and a 1 tattoo on his hand. I want something that pops, you know? Something grand, something majestic. I like these words. And ability-wise, he's forgettable. He has a focus on the ability known as Zero, which all significantly powerful Hollows from the Gillian class and up. I think even below that, I think I'm forgetting one. The Menos Grande, is he Gillian? I don't know. The point is that a lot of Espada, and, well, all the Espada, and a lot of Arrancar have been shown using Cero, to the point that it doesn't really matter that Stark is doing it rapidly. It's like, who cares how many you shoot? And then he gets these, like, wolves? And, I mean, I get it. He's a wolf on his own, protecting his pack. His name is Coyote. That's it. I understand how the ability kind of came into mind for Kubo, but it feels underdeveloped. It doesn't necessarily fit with Stark's character, at least as well as it could. So design, he's going to get a 6 out of 10. 6 because he's still got some unique traits, and especially in his own lineup with his own crew, he would stand out. Just, it's the fact that he's just put him in a Walmart, and that's just John, you know? Abilities, also getting a 6 out of 10. Because they're fine, but the wolves are cool. The wolves are nice. I like the wolves. And I can also see how, at least thematically, the abilities do make good sense on a very, very surface level. But for character, I'm gonna have to give him a solid 9. He is his own character, without Aizen, before Aizen, and if he had survived, probably after Aizen as well. It's a little sad that we're already at the end of his story, so we don't get to experience his growth as the series goes on. But it's not like he was there very long anyway, so what am I talking about? That brings his total to a 21 out of a possible 30. Bergen Louisenbarn. Yeah, sure. Bergen Louisenbarn. Barry Lewis is the Espada number 2, and the former king of Hueco Mundo. I did not like Barry whenever I first saw him. Keep in mind, this is a point in time where I've got shoulder-length hair, and I'm walking around with 3 Days Grace blasting in my ear, but I thought Barry was the stupidest looking Espada. And do you know why? You're correct. It's because he's old, and I was ageist. But Barry stands out, because not only, if he was an old man with a mustache by itself, you know, that'd be one thing. Whatever. But Barry is an absolute unit. 100% masculine girth is on this guy, and I don't know why. I don't think they ever explain it, why he's just large. I assume it has something to do with the approximation of human having to condense their spiritual pressure down from what it was to what it is, but Barry didn't really shrink from what I could see, so I don't know. But he looks great, and his Zanbakuto is a huge battle axe, and that's neat. Now, that's a warlord waiting to happen. I wish he was in armor. That is my only complaint, and it's not even really a complaint with his design, but he would look even better in like a fucking medieval, like, spiky fantasy, absolutely not practical at all armor. That'd crank it up a little bit. But as it is, he looks great. He's a good guy. Ability-wise, though, I take issue. Initially, when he's using his powers against Soifon, and just, like, aging parts of her temporarily, or not temporarily, you don't age something temporarily. He was aging things in a very small, focused area, with only relatively minor effect, like brittle bones and things of that nature. But as he actually uses his resurrection and becomes the walking embodiment of death and destruction, he kind of just gets an everything-proof shield, and I take a big issue with that. I hate everything-proof shields. They take the fun. They take the fun out of a fight in a villain. If something is so insanely overpowered that you can do nothing against it, it no longer becomes fun. And yeah, they actually did end up dealing with the problem, but if Hachi hadn't have been the one who was there, Soifon had lost. Any of the other Visored had lost as well. I love it in theory. I love time-based abilities, chronomancy. I love them in theory, but this is always the risk you take with them, is that they become rapidly too powerful. See Heroes for an example, I guess. And story-wise, you're gonna call me a hypocrite, but Bergen is completely done with his story. He is no longer a character by the time we see him. He is an old, angry man, and he just kind of spouts the same 3 lines over and over, but in different ways. But with his personality kind of just stemming from these things, these are also really the only parts of his personality that we see in his backstory. And that's not fun. He's got a great baller design, just like in his past and in his resurrection and in his base form. He looks phenomenal. That's a guy who I could see ruling an empire. And he does it, I'm not gonna say well, but he isn't the worst king that Hueco Mundo could have had, I guess. He probably is better on the paperwork side of things. Who knows? But for design, we're gonna give him a 10 out of a possible 10. Because unless, they added something that would probably honestly ruin the character, I don't see him getting better. He looks great now, and he looks great then. He looks great. Abilities, though, I'm giving him a 7. I don't like the everything proof bullshit shield. It feels bad. It feels bad to ride around. You can't have fun with it. And I know I've already said that 5 times about this, so I'm not going to continue. So 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 for the other thing, too. What was the other thing? It was his character. He's got backstory, he is his own person, but he doesn't have anything that's particularly engaging to draw upon for his own growth or his own development. He's just bland and forgettable in terms of his personality, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But not too bland and forgettable. Still a 7 out of 10. That gives him a 24 out of a possible 30. Tyr Haribel? Am I saying that right? Tyr Haribel, if you want to say it like a Westerner, I guess. Tears of the Kingdom is probably the most bland of the Espada. She's not a character that you look at and you go, oh no, I'm not gonna remember her. I believe most Bleach fans figured out pretty quickly that her hollow mask had to be either on her chest or on her face somewhere. Likely there was a ton of fan art already floating around of something to actually make it canon that everything from here down is just like covered in bone and it's like teeth and crazy stuff like that. I can appreciate the subversion of expectations. And then she uses her resurrection and she's just another hot lady with a big weapon. And that's my type. I get it. I look at her, I'm like, she's very pretty. Put her with the rest. And her abilities don't make her stand out anymore either. She just uses water. And to really, that's reductive. Don't mistake me. I know that is a little too small of a phrase. She's a very strong and powerful manipulator of water. But my issue with water manipulation is that it needs to be done in a way that hasn't been done before, because it's one of those abilities, one of those powers that is done so often in so many different things that I truly can't remember whose abilities go where, unless they stand out. Water Dragon Jutsu. It's Naruto. It's definitely Naruto. Water bending, specifically because of the complex and detailed movements that go into all of the arts in Avatar: The Last Airbender. But, Tears doesn't have anything really. I could not tell you, other than Water Blade, what she can do. And there's a Fracion earlier who has like a crab claw and he shoots water and has water blades too. It's upsetting to put it lightly that this Fracion stands out more in my mind than Tyr. She also ain't really got a personality. She just doesn't do really a lot in the story, and so we don't really get a whole lot of time to explore Tyr. We get her backstory just like the other two primeras, but we don't know who she is at all. I couldn't tell you any of her likes, any of her hobbies. I couldn't tell you a thing about her other than the facts about her life. That's not a good character. And even later, once we're in the 1,000-year Blood War arc, and she comes back as a character as the queen of Hueco Mundo, she still doesn't do anything. She's a hostage. And I think that's it. If they wanted her to be a character, they would have done a better job. As it is, it's fine, though. So for design, we're giving her a 7. Mostly for the subversion of expectations with the mask reveal, but also because she's big and scary, and I like that. Abilities are getting a 5, though. They serve their purpose, they do their job, they make her a significant threat. They don't stand out in any way outside of those things. She's a shark, I guess, because big sword, but her abilities give me nothing to grasp onto. There's no attack that I see and go, that is Harry Bell's. Not a 1. And for character, honestly, I don't know. She doesn't stick out in my brain that much. So maybe a 5 is fine. I feel bad even for that, but really, objectively, it should probably be lower. So we're going to land on 5, just because I don't feel like going lower than that, and that gives her a total of 18 out of a possible 20. I can't do math. That's a 17 out of a possible 20. Nelliel to Oldel Schwank. Schwank? Is it German? There's some weird German names mixed in there too. But yes, Nell. Nell is a former Espada who was attacked by a member of the current Espada in order to take her place or to move up or something, because he didn't like her. He was a chauvinist. He was a chauvinist, misogynist, and he's a big, mean man. But Nell's good. I like Nell. Nell is a very nuanced character. Firstly, we have to talk about the first time we meet Nell and how we know her for the first several chapters, for a long time within the story, and that is child Nell. She is this big. She's this big right here. She is obnoxious and incompetent, but yet still somehow survives, has these 2 weird companion guys that are just hanging out with her and doing stuff. It was a little weird whenever she just, like, transformed into that. That was a little off-putting, that was a little concerning. But once the initial shock wears off of who Nell is and what she actually looks like, it's a good design choice. It's pretty subversive, it's pretty unexpected, it's pretty unique. It allows Nell to stand out significantly, and it gives her more screen time to actually become a good character. I also enjoy her resurrection. It's a little forgettable, it's a little low-key, it's definitely one of the early ones, but it's still good. You believe her as a powerful, significant threat that only got taken out of the game because she was attacked by by Mr. Big Scary Man. She also kind of has her own couple of abilities as well. Healing saliva, which I don't know why or how she discovered that, but, you know, that's a fact of nature and a fact of life that we both have to live with. She also has Cero Double, which is where she pulls in an opponent's Cero and then fires it back at twice the strength of the initial Cero. And her resurrection is good, but again, it is definitely an early one. She looks good, it looks majestic, she uses her cool spear throw, and then that's it, we never see it again. We may see it at some point in the 1,000-Year Blood War. I don't think we do, though. I'm pretty sure it's just gone after that. So that's sad. I want to see more of it. But mentioned earlier, she's probably one of the best characters that the Espada have. And this is due to just the sheer amount of time that we have with her. And assuming that she has the same aspect of death that Holly-Belle has, we can kind of just assume that Nell has actually lived this at this point. We don't have to assume. I don't know why I said we could assume. We can see that Nell has already sacrificed a lot. She sacrificed her own personal, figure, her status, her form even. Her companions have done the exact same thing. Yet she's still going. So I think she lives the sacrifice aspect of death a little bit better than Tyr does. So for design, we're going to give her a 7 out of 10. On one hand, it's a good design. It's a good change from the child to the adult to the centaur. The green is very, very aesthetically appealing. But it's lacking just something. And for abilities, we're going to give her a 5. Yeah, 5. I'm thinking of 5. Because she has 3 abilities, and they're all kind of forgettable, really. Cero Double is at least the most unique. However, as a character, Nell is the clear 10 out of 10 in all of the Espada, simply because we know her. We understand her. We know what her goals are from this point going forward. We know what her goals were in the past. We know Nell. And that makes her a great character. That gives her a 23 out of a possible 30. Ulquiorra Cypher is the most well-known, other than maybe one other, of all of the Espada. He was kind of the love of all the emo girls that were growing up back in the day. All 12 of them who were part of the Bleach community. I modeled my look after him. It was crazy. It was awesome. And he still kind of fucks. Like, I'm not even gonna hold you. If I was going by my own personal bias, Ulquiorra would probably just go to 10 in design. I'm such a sucker for it. It's so goth and it's so black metal album. I love it. My problem comes not from his base design, but from his resurrection. And I do mean his resurrection, not his segunda. Not segunda etapa, that thing that they just give him for no fucking reason. No, we're talking just the resurrection. It's just a bigger jacket and some wings. I think his helmet also comes back too. But that's it, man. Like, oh my god, it's not good. It's so not good. You had to look at that and know something else was coming. Like another form or another power-up, another weapon. Anything had to pop out. I expected his coat to open up and there to be like a demon inside of it or something. More arms, more legs, more mouths. Or he was going to open it and it was just going to be a void because his aspect of death is nihilism. But no, he transforms again. He becomes cool again. He becomes cooler. That's a much cooler transformation. But that first design is just the worst. I would argue the worst resurrection of any of the Espada. And I will stand by that. Any of the standing Espada. And ability-wise, oh, man. Oh, I'm going to get some hate for this one. He's not good. He's not bad. Not at all. But he's not good. Ulquiorra does 3 things that make him unique and give him a unique power set. Segunda is the best thing about it. Segunda is the most unique thing about him. It does, however, feel like someone just pulled that out of their ass. I don't really know why this was a thing that was never mentioned. No one has mentioned it. Even Ichigo has never said, "Hey, Aizen, in one of our many chats that we've been having recently, could you tell me about Ulquiorra's Segunda?" And Aizen would go, "What? Anyway, how's the weather?" "Oh, it's a little warm out, but I don't really mind it." "Oh, is that right? I thought it was raining recently, and I don't really like the rain." "Well, who cares what you like? You're a convicted felon." And then they just move on about more interesting shit. I want some explanation. It's given out of nowhere with no context, with no warning, and we're just told to like it. It looks good, it's cool, it's a good fight, great animation, great manga panels. Where'd it come from? Cerro Oscurus is just another Cerro. It's just a black Cerro, and that is not really something I care about, man. It's cool that it's black, I guess. I like black things. I'm a goth. But it's just like, give me something unique. And then when he does, it's his lance. And the lance is just a bomb. It is just a blast of energy that does a lot of damage. Nothing unique. Nothing holds it up above the other thing, other than its pure destructive capability, which is either matched or at least rivaled by Soifon. All aspects, all things that make Ulquiorra unique are unfortunately pretty lackluster. Ulquiorra has the honor of probably representing his aspect of death the best out of most of the other Espada. His aspect of death being nihilism. Nihilism, like that feeling of nothingness, that nothing matters, that the universe will continue without you no matter what, and whether or not you think that is a positive thing. Nihilism is a hard thing to write, because you run into the exact thing that Ulquiorra runs into, which is that it's boring. Nihilistic characters are dull. They are exhausting. They talk like this all the time. They are bored. They want to die, but are too cowardly to do it themselves. That's pretty much what you get. And that's accurate for Ulquiorra, other than I'm also a good soldier. I'm going to follow orders. Look at my hard hat. So, for design, we're going to give him an 8 out of a possible 10. And I stand by that 8. I recognize him as one of the most iconic of all of the Espada, because no one talks about his base resurrection. It is easily forgotten by everyone, and intentionally forgotten by most. Abilities gets a 5 out of a possible 10. 5 because I don't think anything about him stands out. None of his actual abilities, other than Cerro Oscurus, even really have anything to do with his aspect of death, which feels sort of strange, at least to me. And Cerro Oscurus is still just a Cerro. Do something unique with a void. Make a black hole. You've got the aesthetic for it. And for character, we're giving him an 8, because he's probably about as good as a nihilistic character can possibly be. That gives him a 21 out of a possible 30. Noroita Gilga? Noroita Gilga. Mr. No, Mr. Big Scary Man here. is a character whose name I've never been able to pronounce properly. I know it's very simple, but every single time I look at it on a piece of paper, I see the two N's right next to each other, and it completely freaks me out, and I panic. He looks good. He looks alright. If I saw him in the grocery store, I might pop in for a chat. He's got some big tooths. That helps him stand out. Shinji kind of does the same thing, and I think it's just supposed to represent a weird kind of smile, because when we actually see Mr. No a little later in a few flashbacks, he has a kind of normal face in some cases. However, nothing about his resurrection is redeemable. The only thing that I could possibly consider being the redeemable quality of it is that the manga panels for it are really good, and the fight with Zaraki is very, very good, but man, like, it's just arms. It's arms and scythes. That is it. You have nothing else. You could have done so many things. You have this crazy, insane, like, double lunar thing. I don't know what you even call that weapon. You have that, and you change them all into scythes, which is more forgettable, and it's not good, man. Don't even get me started on the fact that there are no abilities. It is a purely physical transformation. The only thing that he really has that elevates him in any way is the fact that he has the hardest hierro in all of the Espada, which is a little interesting and a little strange in my opinion, but let's say that that's true. And he also has high-speed regeneration, which at first is like, okay, wow, you have to get through his crazy fucking defense, and then he can still heal basically any injury? That seems a little crazy. That seems a little wild. But then ulquiorra also has it. So, I mean, why are we here? A lot of the high-level hollow threats just have high-speed regeneration, by the way. This isn't something purely unique to Neutra. So it's at least explainable and explicable that ulquiorra also has it. But Neutra makes it out to be such a crazy thing that I don't think anybody should share it with him. I don't think he should let people share this. I think he should kill Neutra. He should kill himself, apparently, because that's the name I just said. I meant ulquiorra. But as far as character goes, I actually quite like him, at least on a fairly surface level. Mostly, this is due to the fact that his aspect of death is despair. Despair is typically also hard to write, because you end up with the sad sacks who can't ever feel good things, and therefore they're not fun to watch, and they're not fun to listen to. Neutra kind of flips that, because he doesn't experience despair, at least until the very end. He causes despair. He is a harbinger of despair. He brings despair where he goes, and causes it for no reason other than he's kind of a bastard. And that's a good twist. That's a good way to actually elevate the concept of a character based in despair to another level. So I'll take it. I'm fine with that. He does become very one-note very quickly, though. He's just, again, a bastard. He's just a bad man who does bad man things for bad man good times. There's only so many ways that you can say, oh, I'm gonna hit him with my scythe because I'm a bitch, before I lose interest. So for design, we're gonna give him a 5. Yeah. I'm gonna give him a 5 because he stands out, he stands up. His sealed state especially. Resurrection is one of the worst in the biz. Similarly, abilities gets a 3 because he doesn't really have them. He's just kind of a guy with a lot of arms and hard skin. I guess those are abilities, but they're not good. But for character, we're gonna give him a 7 out of a possible 10. For it being his best trait, and it being a nice little subversion for the regular despair-based characters. So, that brings them to a total of 15 out of a possible 30. Grimjow Jägerjaquez. Jägermeister. The Jägermeister is the most recognizable of all of the Espada. I will stand on this hill and die on this hill. There will be arguments one way or the other, like there have always been, but I truly do believe this. He is featured the most out of any of the outwardly hostile Espada. He has the most direct rivalry with Ichigo, and is just kind of a really good-looking dude. Like, he's a handsome fella. But Grimjow looks good. You would identify him. He's got punch you in the street for no reason energy, and he carries that. Like he's the kind of guy that walks with his hands in his pockets, hunched over, like snapping his finger and like flipping a coin, smoking a cigarette, all on the alleyway next to like a huddle house. His resurrection's pretty good looking too. It's not perfect. It's definitely a bit more slender and a weird bodysuit than I would have liked. His hair is very evocative of Super Saiyan 3 as well, which is a weird choice, but we'll take it. That's fine. I don't hate it. And whenever he's using his final ability, that's fine. I'm cool with that. That's a good shot, even if he just kind of goes, and then it never kills anybody. Speaking of abilities, though, he doesn't have them. I keep harping on this because a lot of the characters don't, or at least the middle Espada really don't have much in the way of their abilities. And Grimmjow's kind of the same way. He punches real good. He kicks real hard. He scratches your face real solid. He doesn't do anything that no one else could do. His Gran Rey Cero isn't even an ability that's unique to him. He just uses it when he shouldn't. He's a little rule breaker. And his resurrection doesn't improve this, because it gives him one new ability and just makes him faster and stronger. And I talk about the fact that physical-based abilities are fine if they at least have some kind of, like, grand element to it. But there's nothing. It's just him. And that's disappointing. I was expecting way more. He can be rather one-note whenever it does come to his personality and his character, though. And that's kind of sad, but we do get a lot of Grimmjow content, and we still need to make him a villain, so I understand why it did happen. Because we can't make him too friendly with his Fracion or his Numeros that he had following him around, because then he'd be too relatable and too much like we didn't want to kill him. It still ends up happening, but, you know, whatever. He's an overconfident jerk, and that's really good. But if I can sum him up by just saying brute. It is worth noting that he also does show up in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, but he hasn't changed. He doesn't do anything new. He's just himself. They don't even attempt to be like, oh, hey, remember Ulquiorra Segunda? Remember that? Well, now Grimmjow has one. That would have been great. And maybe, 1,000-Year Blood War, as it's airing, I know the anime is expanding on a lot of stuff. Maybe they'll give him one. That'd be great. I would love to see it. I'm calling it now. They're going to do it because all of everything else has been so well received. Senjumaru's Bankai still isn't canon. Design, we're going to give him a 9 out of a possible 10. 9 because he's good. I like him. Hot guy. I'm not biased. Shut up. Abilities are a 6, and I really don't want to even give him a 6, but I have to admit there is a sort of fun way that he beats the hell out of Ichigo. He's just having a great time. He's just there to kick ass and take names, and he's all out of names, so he's gonna kick your ass. Like, I don't know how else to put it, which is why he gets a 7 out of 10 in character, because he is one note, but he's still a pretty good character. That note's solid. Gives him a 22 out of a possible 30. Zomari Ruro is... Zomari Ruro is, I don't want to say that I like Zomari, because there's not a lot to like in some regards, but there's something about Zomari and, like, the way he looks that is a little strange and a little off-putting at the very get-go. The way he stares at things, the way he just kind of, like, stands like this and, like, side-eyes everybody. And I like how his mask is, like, his little bone fragments in the top of his head. That's alright. I can dig that. That's something unique, at least. Not really a mask, but his resurrection, on the other hand, I'm a fan of that. It's such an odd-looking resurrection, you know? And the fact that even though it's a much smaller scale and more compact resurrection than some of the others, it really feels different. It feels powerful. If it wasn't Byakuya or Yoruichi or Soifon, if it wasn't any of these characters who ended up fighting Zomari, he really couldn't lose. You have to be faster than him to win. That is just how that has to be, and because of that, he is focused almost entirely on his speed. He just happened to fight somebody who had greater speed than he did. But he looks like a maniac in Resurrection. Like, he looks like a crazy person, and he gets frantic, and he starts controlling body parts and doing things and taking over, and I just, it's so weird, and so I don't like the idea of having my body taken from me. I don't like that. That's good. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that design and that ability choice. It's not really something you get to see very often, because it's not full mind control. Like, yeah, he can fully mind control people if he hits you square in the noggin. But if he hits you in the hand, he just now controls your hand. If he hits you in the leg, he controls your leg. He controls individual parts of you. But if he gets you in the head, he gets your brain. And that's all of you. So, sucks to suck, man. He's not a character, though. He is an obstacle. We never get a backstory for him. We know nothing about him. We only know that his aspect of death is, I think it's like fucking too much. Hedonism. It's hedonism. Just excess and being an excessive person in things and in like lust, typically. He doesn't live up to that. He doesn't ever evoke someone who is hedonistic to me. They frantically try to make him do that whenever he's praising Aizen during his resurrection, and he is steadily a little more crazy about it as the resurrection and fight with Byakuya continues. But he never has what I would call a standout moment in terms of his personality or his character. And that's disappointing. So for design, we're giving him a 7 out of a possible 10 because of his resurrection and the way he stares at me from the corner of the room and makes me uncomfortable, and I don't like that. Abilities, we're going to give him an 8 because it's unique. It's good ability. I like it. The man will take you from you and kill you with you. If he makes you kill yourself, is it still... Questions for later. Characters of 4. That brings his total to a 19 out of a possible 30. Cesail Aparo Grands. One of the best Espada. He's not a good guy. He's not... I wouldn't want to, like, hang out with him. I wouldn't want to bring him to the church social. But as a villain, he is easily one of the most standout of all of them. And not just because he's got pink hair, not because he's a little femboy, not because he's crazy, but because of all of these things, on top of a crazy moveset and set of weird things that he's just capable of doing, even at a base level. But then once he hits his resurrection, it doesn't change much, and you're just like, okay, well, that's good. I still like it. I debated very strongly on whether I should talk about his Hell form. The Echoing Jaws of Hell arc is ongoing, meaning that there are like 1 or 2 chapters. There are not many at the time of this video's recording, and there's really not much happening other than they're just like strolling through hell on a little vacation. But Cesail reappears as this guardian of hell or somebody who's escaping hell. I don't remember exactly what it is. I understand I'm an edgy kid at heart, but man, you can't look at me and tell me that that's not the coolest transformation you've ever seen from, like, A to backwards R. Like, it's still... I don't know if I should include it because no one else has this advantage. It is still canon, though. Abilities is a 10 out of 10, though. I'm spoiling this early because he has the strangest of all the abilities within the Espada. The most unique, the most odd, and the one that you think about the most. And I say one, he's actually got quite a few. He can consume his own fraction to heal himself. He can create voodoo dolls of the enemies that he's fighting in order to create, like, little, like, to show that there's organs inside of them, so he can crush them, and that crushes the corresponding person. He creates voodoo dolls, opens the dolls, there's organs that represent the real organs in the dolls, and he squishes them in his fingertips. And then that squishes the real organs in the real people. It's a long ability. That's a lot of description. That doesn't make it good. That kind of detracts from it. But in essence, in the show, it's a lot easier to understand. And then lastly, if he dies, he can impregnate you and be born out of your insides and come out your mouth, which is, I didn't need to know that. That's not for me. That's a weird dude, weird guy. That's a villain. That's a fellow we don't want to meet in an alley. His design is kind of his entire character, though. And what that means is that he is designed with a madness mindset, a thing where they're looking at this character like, okay, let's make him crazy, and let's keep making him crazier. Let's keep making him crazier. Let's keep making him crazier. And then that becomes every single thing that we know about him by the end of it. I couldn't tell you his hopes and dreams and ambitions. I couldn't tell you his likes other than science. I couldn't tell you his dislikes other than Mayuri and drugs. But it's overwhelming. Overwhelming amounts of madness kind of make you forget everything else about the character. So for design, we're gonna give him a 7. I wanted it to be more. I really did. But when we have approximately like 3 panels of this guy in his other state, we can't really say that he always looks great. It may look like crap later for all we know. I may come back and bite my own tongue on this one and bump it up to a 10 retroactively, but if I do, I'll leave it in the comments. Abilities is a 10 though. They're very, 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 very memorable, very unique, very definitely Sazale. I couldn't imagine any of the other Espada having his abilities or using his abilities, and that's what makes them great. But for character, it's gotta be a 5, dude. The madness aspect is fun. I will admit that fully. But when that's 100% of your personality, that you need another part of your personality. That brings his total to a 22 out of a possible 30. I'm going to do my very best at pronouncing this. Please don't laugh at me. Eraniro Arrueri. Aaron is Espada number 9, and I don't think he has a bad trait. That's gonna be a little surprising, I think. But hear me out. This is my soapbox. This is the one that you can chalk off as my personal preference, being a weirdo if you have to. But Aaron immediately stands out when you look at the lineup because of his weird helmet that he's got. And whenever you see this, you're like, what's going on in there? Why are you masking everything? Is that just your hollow mask? Do you just look like that? What is it? But then he's got 2 voices, one male, one female, and I default to he because that's just where I go. But these 2 voices are still one being, I believe. See, that's the question I have with Aaron, is these 2 heads are separate beings, but at the same time they only have one Zanpakuto between the 2 of them. So I don't really understand how it works unless they are perfect twins, and they may explain that. However, the resurrection is quite possibly the strangest in the show. I don't know how this is what Aaron looked like before, because that's not how a resurrection should work. At least not for them. They should not have a Zanpakuto. But they do anyway. So it makes me think that it's just their base hollow power that they're masking as a Zanpakuto. You know? If that makes any sense, and I don't know if it does. But it's still, that rule of cool kind of takes it over. It's just like, whoa! Dude! Scoob! But it's striking. It stands out, and it's easily one of the most memorable parts of the entire Huecamundo invasion arc. And then to go even further with the abilities, Gluttonaria doesn't fit his MO. It doesn't fit him. It doesn't fit the world of Bleach, and that makes it stand out. And he's such a weird character on his own that it kind of makes sense that he has a really weird ability. He shouldn't exist within the actual context of the show. Dordoni is stronger than him. Surichi, Gantenbane, they're all stronger than him, presumably, but they're not in his place. So he really shouldn't be there, but he is because of his limitless potential, his limitless growth, his limitless ability. He also stole the body of Kaien Shiba and has a Shinigami Shikai, which in theory would also allow him to gain a Shinigami's Bankai. Okay, that's a lot of information that you just dumped on me. Why did Aizen not study that one more? I don't know. I don't know the answer to it, because he really should have. And character-wise, his struggle to remain within the ranks of the Espada, as well as his storytelling moments with Rukia, and how significant the fight with Aaron is to Rukia for the course of her story because of her relation with Cayenne. It's a solid story moment. I appreciate it tremendously, and it really elevates Aaron from simply being an obstacle to being actually a memorable moment within the show. Most of the screen time for them is actually devoted to Cayenne and Cayenne's personality taken over. Cayenne, I think I'm enunciating a little too strongly on Cayenne, but you know who I'm talking about. Just get over it. So for design, it's an 8 out of 10. The only reason it's not a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 is because of how much it is incongruous with our idea of what a Zanpakuto and a resurrection are, to the point where it makes us really question the validity of it and the consistency of it. I'm not saying it's a bad look, but the face is also a little silly, so ability, also an 8 out of 10. And that's for what I just stated. They're pretty much one and the same. I have too many questions, even whenever just looking at it or feeling the ability and how he can get infinitely stronger. All of these are things that I really should have looked into, I swear to God. But for character, we're going to give him a 9, just due to the level of significant character growth that it allowed Rukia to go through, and the fact that it is directly responsible for this growth. You can't argue that makes them a good tool for their purpose. That is what he was designed in the story of Bleach for. I mean, maybe his character, like, actual silhouette was designed first, and then he was given backstory. But you know what I mean. He was placed where he was placed, in the position and in the fight, for that purpose, and he blew it out of the water. That gives him a 25. Yami Largo is... Yami Yugi is not a good character. Yami is introduced as kind of this brutish, annoying sidekick to Neutra. Not Neutra, Ulquiorra, the other one. Yami is immediately beaten senseless by Ichigo, who is at an unknown power boost at this point. He's calm and collected for the first time in his young, angsty teen life. And he chops off Yami's arm and sends them back to hell. I'm talking about this because later on in the story of Bleach, Yami is actually revealed to be the Zero Espada. He is above Stark, he is above Halibel, he's above Ulquiorra, he's above all of them, and then proceeds to get his ass beat badly. And that's my problem with Yami. Every single time we see him, he is hyped up. He's like, oh my god, oh, I hope no one beats him up without really thinking about it. Oh, look, someone beat him up without really thinking about it. Hate that. Yami is supposed to be the Zero Espada, and at no point do I believe that. At no point will I ever think of Yami as the Zero Espada, because even if he gets big, if he gets bulky, if he shoots Zero from his mouth that are so powerful that they blow up the desert of Las Noches in its entirety, if his Bala are stronger, if he even transforms into a pseudo-segunda, if he does that, if he does all of these things, it's still just gonna piss me off, because he's not gonna do anything with them. He's gonna get stomped into the ground, and no one will feel sorry. Also, keep in mind, his aspect of death is rage, which is why, you know, his Zanpakuto is named Ira. It is why he gets so angry all the time. But he can't back up that rage against anyone other than people that are way, way, way weaker than him, and typically his allies. There's very little that I find redeemable about Yami. I do appreciate his actual release, like how big and overwhelmingly present he is after his resurrection has released. He is huge, and that's wild. Like, it's a crazy thing that you're looking at there. I also do like that he fluctuates in size. That's a neat little tidbit that people kind of look over with him. He also does the thing where he absorbs all the human souls in like one bite. That's something we never see from anybody else, so I'll give him credit for that one. And then he's just big from there. He's just a big boy. Dude, I didn't even talk about how he looks, other than how big he is. He's fine. He looks alright. He stands out, definitely, but I can't really say that Yami is a good-looking character. He's meant to just kind of evoke a big meathead. So design's a 5 out of a possible 10. Abilities are a 3, and I'm gonna give his character a 2, because he doesn't have one other than big angry fuck. Gives him a 10 out of a possible 30. I meant to talk about another one before I got to Grimmjow, and I completely forgot about it. Loopy and Tenor. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on. Loopy's bad. Loopy is added as a character for the sake of pissing off Grimmjow, and then Grimmjow kills him. And then he comes back later. And then he's still not a character. He has nothing unique or interesting about him. I don't care what this twink says. I don't care what he wants to do to me with his 8 tentacles. He's not memorable. He's not important. Nothing about him matters. I'm being harsh, and I recognize this. But Loopy is not good. He's genuinely not. Nothing about him is good. His design is bland. His abilities are even more bland. His character is non-existent. It is just slightly annoying and, kind of a dick. But then he dies. We know nothing about him other than that. You can tell Loopy was not a character that Kubo actually wrote in to give a shit about. Loopy is there as progression for Grimmjow, and progression for Eyes and Tosin and the rest of them. Design is a 2. Abilities also 2. Character's a 1, though, because he's not a character. He is not even a roadblock. He's a speed bump at worst. Gives him a 5 out of a possible 10. Dordoni Alessandro del Soccaccio. Soccaccio? Donovan is, the not Primera, he is the Priveron Espada, number 103, previous member of the Espada before being kicked out by others being more powerful than him. Donnie's pretty fine, actually. Like, he's genuinely the most developed, at least, of the 3 Priveron Espada, and he is actually a relatively decent standout character in his own right. He's very flamboyant. He very much just dances everywhere. Like, this man knows how to do the salsa. But Donnie's flamboyant. He talks in a flamboyant manner. He acts in a flamboyant manner. And then when he releases his resurrection, he has these giant snake tornado things that come out of his legs. That's cool. I like that. He flies the whole time, too. Like, come on. Like, what's not to like? Other than his outfit during that. He doesn't change much. He gets kind of the barest bones minimum of armor. Most of it's kind of focused on the tornadoes, of course, but it's a little upsetting that he doesn't get more on himself. And ability-wise, while these, like, snakes do stand out very well, they don't do anything exceptionally unique. You look at them and you go, wow, those are really cool. I bet they have some awesome things that they can do other than hit them, and then they just hit them over and over. His Cetro is the same way. It's just a Cetro with this. He does this. He could have been so much more, at least in terms of his abilities. So for design, we're gonna give him a 5 out of a possible 10. As far as our character goes, he's a pretty good roadblock. He stops things for a little while, keeps the story from progressing, lectures Ichigo a little bit about just stuff, and then calls it a day. He dips, he dies, he doodles. I wish he died in a better way, though. He comes back in 1000-Year Blood War. But I wish he died initially in a better way, at least. Not just killed by some guy. So, for design, we're gonna give him a 5 out of a possible 10. Sorry. Abilities are a 6 out of a possible 10, because the giant wind snakes are actually kind of cool. They just don't do much. Character, we're gonna give him a 6 out of a possible 10, because he makes Ichigo think, and that's something that doesn't happen often. So, we take it when we can get it. Gives him a 17 out of a possible 30. Saruchi Sandervici is the Priveron Espada 105. I want to like her, but I don't. Design-wise, she's just kind of not really memorable in any way other than the design of her own Zanpakuto and her resurrection. By herself, she's just kind of like another lolly bait kind of character, and those always give me the ick. She's very just generic tsundere. And there's more you could do to make a character fun than use a stereotype. Her resurrection is really interesting, though, at least in terms of its appearance, at first. I know that's a lot of qualifiers, but bear with me. It adds a lot to her silhouette, at the very least, and even her base design Zanpakuto is very unique, being like this weird yo-yo thing that's like huge, and she can control the trajectory of it. But then later, whenever she's just Buzzard Lady, it kind of just looks like a really big headdress, which is strange. I feel like that should cover more of you, but whatever. You know, it's better than nothing. Ability-wise, she's kind of above average, I would say. Her base form Zanpakuto, being able to be controlled freely and being as unique of a weapon as it is, I like it. It's a neat little concept. And with her wings and her resurrection vibrating at the frequencies that they do, they may reflect spiritual energy, which is not something we see explored often. This is a presumably powerful steel, don't get me wrong, but the implication is that if I were to vibrate at this frequency, I would repel physical or spiritual energy as well. And that raises questions, but it's definitely unique, so can't falter entirely. Character-wise, she's not good. Definition of a roadblock character, not even truly memorable. Uryu's fight with her is bland and pretty lackluster in most regards. I don't think only Uryu could have beaten her. As a matter of fact, specifically, she was better against Uryu than anyone else there, basically. So, and she still lost pretty forgettably. She comes back later in Thousand Year Blood War, but just like all of the others, she does pretty much nothing to stand out there either. So design gets a 4. This many out of a possible 10. Because Resurrection has a good silhouette, but it's a little forgettable by the end of it, and I don't think her base form is good. Abilities is a 7 out of a possible 10, though, because it raises like a couple of interesting, decent questions, and I don't know. I think it's unique enough that it stands up on its own 2 feet, and makes me appreciate at least part of it. Plus, having a good sealed state helps as well. Character's a 3, though. It's a 3. That's a 14 out of a possible 30. Ooh, I'm tired. I've been standing all day. I'm on the last one, though. Gantenbane. Gantenbane Mascara. Gantenbane is the opponent that Chad faces whenever he's traveling through the Hueco Mundo castle as well, with his crew whenever they get separated. Former Espada number 107, and most likely the weakest of the Priveron Espada. The Priveron Espada. He punches things real good. The man has a pretty, standout look to him, mostly due to the afro. If it wasn't for that, he'd just be kind of a guy. Like, the orange hair would help him stand out, too. It's what Ichigo's, character is for a long time. His resurrection's disappointing. It's so disappointing, dude. It's just the shell of an armadillo on his back. That's it. It's supposed to be a fucking dragon, and you're telling me that this is the best we got? I ain't buying it. Do better. Segunda, come on, please. Oh, you're telling me nothing? You telling me no? Okay. His Zanpakuto having the unique aspect to it whenever it's sealed is good, though. I always appreciate that. It's nice to see them break the mold of it just being a katana when it's a weapon that's supposed to be shaped by your individual soul. Gotta give him at least something for that. Abilities are also a 4, though, because he just punches things real good. And he doesn't even do it in a way that's unique or a way that's special. And once he does use his resurrection, it doesn't give him anything significant. It gives him an energy blast, which everybody has. Everyone has some kind of an energy blast. That's been a staple in anime since DBZ, since Dragon Ball, not even DBZ. So do more, do better. He's a decent character, though. I gotta give him props for that. Chad actually has to grow both mentally and physically during his fight with Gantenbane in order to defeat him. And in order to actually stand a chance and hold his own, he has to think through a lot of his own inner demons and inner struggles and inner traumas. So, because of that, he is elevated beyond at least roadblock status to being a good roadblock, an efficient roadblock. He's like a toll booth more than he is a roadblock. He gives us something, at least. Toll booths, not really, but Gantenbane, better than a toll booth. So, for design, that's a 4. Abilities, that's also a 4, both for the same reason, which is that they're bland, and they got a couple of decent standout things. But nothing about them is particularly like, whoa, look at that, that's Gantenbane. Ooh, he's got an afro. What else he got? Eat shit. Characters, 7, though, because it's good. It's good for the sake of it being good for Chad. Alright, so I believe that is everybody. Here is the list ranked top to bottom. I think if my math is correct, I believe I put Aaron at number 1. I believe Aaron is objectively the absolute best of the best whenever it comes to the Espada. And if you disagree with me, I accept that, but number 2 is bet again. It is no one else, and I will not budge on that one. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I am exhausted. I lost energy. I lost steam around number 9. So apologies for that. But, you know, I had to make myself get up and do this. I've been very tired recently. The winter is hitting, and I don't like the cold. And the seasonal depression is kicking in hard. I just want to sit at my computer and play Baldur's Gate, but get there. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and again, I appreciate all the love on the previous video. I didn't expect it to get to 10,000 views because I am hypercritical of my own, stuff, but I plan to continuously at least make content. I cannot promise that I will ever follow a traditional theme. I'm never going to be one kind of focused channel. I just like talking about things. I like to know a little about a lot. So I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna do that for a little while and just see how it goes. So if you want to join me, please subscribe. But y'all have a great rest of your night.